because it's like when you don't know that something isn't normal, you don't realize other people don't experience it. Like, so I was experiencing this feeling and not realizing other people didn't feel the same way. Hello, my name's Alyssa Easton. I am 22 years old and I'm a transgender woman. This is my story. I am excited to take part in this project because I feel like it's a chance to educate people on what trans people's lives are really like. And I think people might have like a kind of conceived like idea of like who we are and what we're about. And I think it just kind of like helps when people get to see people as like more human and really just get to see like the normal side of everyone. So I think it really is going to be a lot that people can learn, hopefully, from it. So I am a working girl, and for the past like year, I have worked two jobs. I worked one at a donut coffee chain restaurant that we have in the United States, and for my other job, I worked at my local library, and I really enjoyed that one. I actually am very sad to leave that one, but I got a new job offer where I can work from home, and it was just a really great offer for my current circumstances of me trying to move and transition. So it's just really great. Currently have a one bedroom apartment, which I share with my wonderful roommate, my wonderful, cute little bunny. I love him so much. And so, like for like my that's pretty much my day to day life. I would say like my hobbies. I enjoy writing. I enjoy drawing and painting, and I also I play video games sometimes too. So that kind of like is my like hobbies. I like to do things. I'm always up for an adventure. I love to travel, but I haven't been able to do that as much as I want to. So I'm hoping that now with my new schedule and everything, I will be able to do that. And I'm looking forward to moving in by hopefully by like the end of December up to Vermont, United States. It's probably a good 6 or 7 states away, so that's going to be a nice change of pace. So I feel like the question that like everyone has when they first like meet a trans person or like oh see the trans person, they're probably like, okay, so how did you like know you were trans? Or like when did you know you were trans? And for me, I think my story is a little bit different than most trans people. I know growing up personally, I always saw like stories of trans people who, from like when they were little, they always knew that they were trans and that like they were like born in the wrong body and stuff. And for me, my story is a little bit different than that. I would say that I've always felt off, but I haven't always known that I'm trans. I honestly was joking with my therapist one time, and I said it's funny to me, but it's actually I was so interested in psychology because I knew something was wrong, and I've always been trying to understand psychology and understand the brain and how it works and how other people work because I was trying to understand myself. And in the end, after all of that research, it ended up being a BuzzFeed article that helped me realize I was trans. So I have a little bit of explaining to do. I guess I should start at the beginning. So when I was growing up, I would say maybe like 4 or 5 years old, I was experiencing what I now understand is gender dysphoria. I would like look in the mirror and look at my reflection and be like, wow, that's really me. Like, it just doesn't seem right. And I couldn't put my finger on it, but I'm just like, there's just, it was, there was this sense of disbelief and just a disconnect that the reflection I saw was me. The best way I can describe it is if, um, let's say memories were like tangible things, like actual objects, and you found a bag of your loved one's memories, and you're able to see that the bag clearly shows that the memories came from them. But when you examine the memories, they don't have the same emotional impact that your memories have. And it was similar to that in how it felt. It was like I knew from a logic aspect, I was looking at myself, but I didn't feel the emotional connection to my actual physical self. And so that's a very strange feeling, but it's weird how your brain works and how things work because it's like when you don't know that something isn't normal, you don't realize other people don't experience it. Like, so I was experiencing this feeling and not realizing other people didn't feel the same way. So it kind of made me like, I never said anything about it because I just figured maybe this is a normal feeling and like everyone feels this way. Apparently not. So what after that, like growing up, so I felt the disconnect from my body, I would say, ever since I was little. And then as I got older, and like went through puberty and stuff, it the disconnect and like the body issues got worse, I would say, which I didn't realize it at the time until like looking back at it now to see how deep everything was. I got to the point where I was very, very self-conscious about my body, and not in a sort of way, not like a body image issues in the sense of like I would always say I hate my body. But if you asked me why, I wouldn't be able to tell you why. I would just say I just hate it. I can't I just hate being this. But I could not break it down to be like, okay, well, I feel like I'm too fat, I'm too skinny, I'm too this, I'm too that. Like I couldn't descriptively say why I didn't like it. I just knew it just did not feel right. So, I also was very self-conscious about my like masculine, any like characteristics or traits, like when like getting like leg hair or things like that would make me like very self-conscious, and I wasn't comfortable with it at all. um and I think part of the reason for me personally, that I did not connect the dots and realize I was trans for so long was because because I think because of the way I was raised and everything in my environment growing up, I'm very good at dissociating from stress and trauma. So when I'm in a stressful situation, it's very easy for me to escape into my mind and not focus and stay present. And I've always been like that. So I never really took the time to ground myself and realize how much I was so uncomfortable with my body because I would just brush it off and just zone out from everything or distract myself with something else. So I think that's why part of the reason why it took me so long to realize, hey, this is what's going on. And also, while I had that going on, I also realized that I started being attracted to boys. And I knew that was like with my upbringing and like my family background and stuff, that was like a big no-no. So I kind of like focused more on like my sexuality, I would say, than I did about my actual identity for years. And I think also part of it too is the way that like I really didn't have like any like LGBT like examples or anything. So I really didn't understand what the difference between like let's say being trans was and being gay or anything. I really had no idea what the differences were. So I honestly thought for the longest time, it's so embarrassing thinking about it now, but I honestly thought for the longest time that all gay guys wanted to be women because that was like my experience. That was my personal experience. I thought that people, assumed that I was gay because of how I acted. I've always been very feminine. Um, and so people assumed I was gay. And so I figured, okay, well, if I am gay, then that means other gay guys must feel the same way I do. And come to find out that's not the case. So anyway, um, so later teens, I just kind of like hit a lot of depression. Actually looking back at it now and talking with my therapist and everything, I've really had depression ever since I was like probably 4 or 5. But it wasn't like severe enough for me to end up like getting the help for it. So that kind of like all of it has been there for a long time, and it just was not getting treated or getting helped. So I would say around like early 2019 is when I was it was funny. So I was actually like just reading like a BuzzFeed article, and it was talking about like clapback, like the greatest like internet Facebook clapbacks or whatever. And I was reading this one, and it was talking about it was somebody that was like trying to be like antagonistic or whatever to this gay dude, and was like, okay, which one of you is the girl or whatever. And so he replied back, neither of us is. Like, we're both men who like men. And that's like literally the whole point of being gay. And it, like, when he said that, it just struck me. And I was like, wait, hold up. So you're telling me like gay dudes don't want to be girls? It was like a record scratch. And it was just like, it was just the biggest thing. And I'm like, wait, hold up. What does this mean? And I just started doing like a lot of research, and I was like, whoa, okay. So if I'm not gay, what am I? And doing research, I came across gender dysphoria as the DSM the symptoms in the DSM-5, and it was stuff I had experienced my entire life. The dissociation, I mean, like the dislike of your secondary sex characteristics, desire to be seen and perceived as the other gender. And so all of those things were incredibly, incredibly strong for me. I wanted to be seen as a woman. I thought about myself a lot as being a girl's brain in a boy's body. But I didn't accept myself. Because I hadn't always known and I didn't know what it meant to feel like a woman. Um, I didn't think that it applied to me. I didn't know it applied to me. So it took a lot of time, even after I found that diagnostic criteria. It took me a long time to really accept it. I went through a lot of several months where I was like analyzing every memory that I could try to think of and thinking about myself. I'm like, okay, am I a boy? Am I a girl? Like I was trying to work it out. It's so hard and it was a lot of stress because I was like, I wanted so bad for the answer to be yes, that I was a girl. And I was so scared that I would find something that would be like, oh, prove that I was a boy. And that just thought just terrified me. And I remember reading this article, and I can't remember who the author was, but basically the gist of it was like when it comes to like identity and stuff like that, there becomes like this point where your desire to be something and how much effort you put into it makes you the thing. And it was talking about in the sense of gender, in the sense that like sometimes a person's like, how do I know that I really am this? And so when I simplified it down to, I was like, okay, so when it comes to my life and how I want people to see me, I want people to see me as a woman. I see myself as a woman. I would want to navigate the world as a woman. I would want to have anatomy that's typically associated with being a woman. So, in what other instance, like at some point, it's just like all the things at this point, okay, yeah, I'm a woman. So, I just need to understand that about myself. And once I accepted that, and once I really basically stopped denying it for myself, I felt so much more peace because I had been in like so much turmoil before. Then after that, I was like, okay, well, now I know what's going on. And at the time, I wasn't planning on transitioning because I just like my family and stuff, and my family is very religious, and I knew that like my religion and me being trans just wouldn't go together. And I really was trying to like keep the family and friends that I had, and I didn't want to lose them. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna I'm gonna try, because I had done a lot of research and I found out that hormone replacement therapy actually is very helpful for trans people, even if they don't like socially transition. Medical transition is very helpful to just your mental state and stuff like that. So I had decided I was going to start medically transitioning, but I didn't think I was going to socially transition. I was going to like stay in what we call boy mode and just keep doing that, even though I really wasn't enjoying it. And so I would say that like 2020, like the beginning of 2020, end of 2019 was some of the worst times of my life. I just hit rock bottom. For so long I had been dissociating from my body and just trying to do everything I could to keep my mind off of how badly I just hated being in the body that I was. And because of my depression, I got to the point where I could not mentally do the things that I would usually do to occupy myself. And all of that dysphoria that I had been suppressing for so long just collapsed in on me, and I had basically a breakdown. I actually had to go to a mental hospital for like a week because I had become like suicidal and stuff, and it was a very, very dark place. Um, but when I came out of that, like I still was very suicidal. And I just was like, okay, I'm just trying to hang on until I can start like hormone replacement therapy and see how it goes. And then I would say there was a situation where I was interacting with somebody and it just kind of like clicked in my mind and my heart. And I realized that if I wanted to be able to have like a relationship, if I wanted to be able to do things in my life and move forward with my life, this was something I was going to have to do, and that it would be worth whatever sacrifices I had to make to do it. And it was really scary, but I want to say it was probably maybe like July or so where I decided, like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and transition. And it's been a whirlwind since then. I started hormone replacement therapy in, let's see, I think it's September. Let's check my calendar. Let's see. Yes, I started September 10th. Wonderful day for me. I honestly feel great. Um, it really does have a wonderful effect for people who are trans to be on the hormone that you need for your body. I just feel a lot healthier. I feel a lot more emotionally stable. I still have problems just like anybody else does, but it certainly has relieved a lot of my dysphoria, and I just feel really good, and I feel really happy, and I want to continue moving forward with it. I'm really liking the changes and everything that I'm getting, and I'm just really growing into the woman that I've always known I am, but I am now, hopefully the world will be able to see. I am currently out to a few close friends, not out publicly, just because of the area that I live in. I personally don't feel safe being out. It's not a horrible area. It's a small town though, and people just aren't used to anything that's kind of like out of the ordinary. And so I don't want to get hate crimed. So I'm just like, yep, let's just keep this under wraps so I can move to somewhere where I feel safer. My family members, my dad basically disowned me. He told me that he didn't want to see me anymore, and I was like, okay, I honestly like don't care because we didn't have a really good relationship to begin with. My mother and I are very, very close. Because of the religious thing, she personally has kind of like wanted to like not have as much contact as we used to have. So that's been an adjustment, and I am sorry that I don't have that same relationship with her. But I also respect her decision. I understand, and I don't know why she does it. So it's just been difficult. Most of the friends that I've told have been supportive. I've had a few that aren't. Most of them don't know, but the ones that I have told have been supportive. So, I would say the perception of me with people around me, most people see me as just an average person, to be honest. Like, I've gotten good at hiding the fact that I'm not a cis straight male. So most people don't know, or if they do suspect something, they think I'm gay, which I really don't care about anymore. I used to have like, there was one point in my life where I was like really self-conscious and stuff about that. But now I'm just like, whatever. You can think whatever you want to. I know who I am, and that really is all that matters. Um, so yeah, my that's pretty much like my like outer circle of like people, how they reacted to it. But yeah, so it's been an adjustment. It's been hard because I know that a lot of people are going to be hurt by me like leaving and everything. But I know at the same time this is what I have to do for me at this point. And it's really like the best thing for me. Ooh, so now we have question time. Ooh, goody. So, first question. How are you doing at the moment? How do you feel? Great, actually. This has really been like, I would say this is really the best I've felt in, I don't want to be presumptuous and say my entire life, but it's honestly, I would say at least years, if it not my entire life. It's just really a relief to let go of a lot of baggage that I've been carrying for a long time and really start to like make decisive, not decisive, make like proactive decisions about being myself and being me and just really being able to live my life authentically, which is really, really cool. So it feels great. Question number 2. What has been the hardest part of the journey so far? So, I'm gonna I guess I can break this up into like two parts. I can talk about like the hardest part of my personal journey, and also I think the hardest part that for me personally being trans is like, so I would say the hardest part of probably being trans is like the gender dysphoria. If you have gender dysphoria, not every trans person does have gender dysphoria. Um, for me personally, I would say that's been the hardest part just because it's kind of like affected the way I interact with the world so much. And it's so pervasive. Like, it's so many things that a person doesn't think about that really, it can affect. I'd say the second part of it probably has just been like dating and like relationships and stuff because it's just difficult because for me, so I think a lot of times people have a lot of misconceptions about like how, um, people, maybe I should save that to the misconception part. No, but I think, yeah, I'll just say that for the misconceptions part. Okay, number 3. What do you wish other people knew about what you've gone through? I would say that what I wish people knew is that the trans people we've got a lot going on. I think a lot of people think that people do it just to be trendy, or like trans people are just kind of like, just being weird or just doing it for attention or things like that. But I don't think people understand how isolating and really torturous like gender dysphoria can be, because it's always there with you. No matter how much you try, it's like this weight that you're literally carrying around all of the time. It's always like weighing on you, eating away at you. You're trying to hide it from other people if you don't have accepting family, or it really is just this real, it's very hard struggle. It's very isolating struggle because you don't feel like you can talk to other people about it because you don't think they'll understand. So it's hard. We're not choosing to be this way. It's not necessarily fun for us. I mean, some people may enjoy being trans. I think with anyone with really bad dysphoria, I don't think that they enjoy it, and I feel like if we had the option to opt out of it, we definitely would. And so the next question is, what are the biggest misconceptions about being transgender? Probably, I would say that it's a choice. That's probably one. People think that we like choose to be trans, or we just like woke up in a day. It's like, you know what? I'm going to become a woman one day. It's not like that. It's not so much of me deciding, oh, I want to become a woman. It's me realizing that I've been a woman and deciding I need to do something about it. It's almost like, it's like let's say, when you go to the doctor and you've been sick. It's not like you just woke up one day, it's like, you know what, I'm just gonna go to the doctor, or I think I want to get sick today and I'm gonna go to the doctor. It's like most likely we were already having symptoms, and those symptoms it pushed you to go to the doctor and get the checkup. So it's kind of like that with being trans. It's like there's already the symptoms there, and then when you start to transition or whatever, you're doing that to alleviate the symptoms. But it's not like you just woke up one day and like, oh, I'm gonna be trans, this looks like it might be fun to just try on a new gender. It's not like that. I think one of the other big misconceptions is that, like, I would say for straight trans women, because a lot of people don't even like realize that trans lesbians are a thing, or that trans men are a thing. That like straight trans women are like trying to like trick men into like sleeping with them and make them gay or whatever. I think that's another big like misconception. Um, I mean, sure, you do have like people out there that are kind of like crappy and might take advantage of the fact that they're trans if they know it's gonna like mess with somebody's head and like do something that they shouldn't. But I don't think that's the majority of people. I think that's a small number of people that are probably narcissistic, and I think that's no different than cis people who do things and take advantage of people. It's a bad thing to do, but it's not universal. It doesn't characterize all people. And I think in the same vein is that, like, I think there's this like conception that like guys that are attracted to trans women are gay, when it's not. It's straight guys that are attracted to us. Gay dudes aren't attracted to people that have female secondary sex characteristics, so they're not going to be attracted to a trans woman. Just because a trans woman is trans doesn't make you gay if you're attracted to her, and it doesn't mean that she's gay and trying to like turn you or whatever. Because for like me personally, I identify as a straight woman. I am trans, but I identify as a straight woman. Any guy that I date would be somebody who's interested in women on some level, whether that is straight or bisexual. I'm not really picky in that part, but it would be somebody that's attracted to women and not somebody who's attracted to men. So it would be a straight relationship. Next question is, if you had to sit down and have a conversation with a transphobic person, what would you tell them? This is a good question. I would tell them that I think first of all, I would ask them like, what are their biggest reasons why they don't like trans people, and then try to reason from there. If it's because of like things that they've heard or like the bathroom situation, I think the biggest thing people that are transphobic just need to understand, or I would say to them, just that we're like everyone else. We just want to live our lives. Like I said before, of course, you've got some trans people that do bad things, but you have cis people that do bad things. You have people of different races that do bad things, people at different ages that do bad things, but that doesn't make a generalization about that group of people. Just because some people in that group have done bad, there's a lot of good people too. And really, we just want to live our life and assimilate in the culture as much, and I mean, not culture, assimilate into people as much as possible. Like, we're not trying to like be, troublemaking or anything. We just want to live our lives and have peaceful lives, but, we just have this little bump in the road before we get to our destination. Next question says, what would you tell your younger self? I think I would tell myself to not give up. And I know like people always say like it gets better, and I feel like my life has gotten better, but I feel like part of that is me weathering the storm and like keep going. Not so much that like life necessarily like always just gets better because, just give it enough time. But like in the sense of I think if you hold on long enough, you can ride out the storms. So I would tell my younger self that she's beautiful and not to give up on herself, not to get discouraged because of the things that she's going through then. And that we're strong and we'll make it through. And it's you're going up. You can only go up from where you are. Next question is, did you feel isolated or alone going through it? Oh yes. I actually have some poetry that I wrote years ago. I'm glad that I've had this because I pulled this out and I was like, oh wow, this was like really deep. I'm not gonna like read the whole thing, but like some parts of it were really good. It said, I keep others at a distance, won't let them into my space. Talking about like keeping people away because I was so afraid that like um people would see that I was different, that something was different about me, and I was trying to hide it for so long. And at the time, of course, I thought it was gay. I've only known I was trans within like the last year. But still, it was just like I was just trying to like hide this big secret from the world, and I felt like everybody could see it, and I was always worried that like people were gonna figure it out, and it just kept me from really making strong connections with people because this whole other side of me I was keeping wrapped away. So it was very difficult. It was very hard. I felt very isolated, very alone, um, very lonely. But it's a lot better now. The next question says, do you have any supportive people around you? Yes, I do actually. I have several friends. I have several coworkers at my library job. A lot of my coworkers at my library job are older. So they're like moms to me, and I really enjoy talking to them. They've been very supportive. I have a really good friend that we're getting closer and everything, and she's really supportive of me transitioning. So that's been wonderful. It's made up for the fact that I don't have my family to support me, which that's been a really it kind of has helped to like counteract that sort of thing. Next question: have you felt a sense of solidarity and comfort within the transgender community? Ooh, hot take time. So, I would say yes and no. I think that the trans community is a community that's been through a lot. I think that sometimes because of the stress that we're put under, it's easy to let things divide us. And so I have been in positions before where I have been in different groups of trans people that aren't okay with other groups of trans people because of the way we view different things, like maybe gender dysphoria or, what it means to be trans and things like that. And I feel like some of the conflicts and stuff aren't really that mature. And I feel like when I was first coming into it, I had stronger opinions on it. And now I'm just like, you know what? I'm really not for trying to tell somebody else whether they are trans or they aren't trans. I have my own opinions on what being trans means and what it is, but it really isn't that important for me to put that out into the ether. Everybody has to find their own journey, and it's not really hurting me if somebody else is finding it in a different way than I am. So it's just kind of like that. But for the most part, I will definitely say that I do find I've found family in trans people in the community, and that I think I would have not known how to handle it as well if I didn't have that support. Do you get bullied, teased, harassed, or insulted? Not right now. Some of my prior jobs that I had, like one of my prior jobs, I worked at a restaurant. And this was, again, back when I thought I was gay. I was looking more feminine and people kind of picked up on it. So some people teased me about being gay, but not being trans specifically. Because no one really, that's not like something that people's minds go to here because we're not exposed to it as much. There really aren't that many trans people that I don't even think I don't even know of any trans people around here. So, I mean, if there are, they're stealth and like nobody knows. So yeah, no, I haven't really dealt with that as much lately, which is nice. So yeah. Do you feel scared? I wouldn't say scared. I'm cautious. I don't wear women's clothes out in public. Because I don't know how people would respond to that. I would hope that people in my area wouldn't, do anything crazy and kill me or anything. But I also try to be cautious because I don't know. It's more of a conservative area, so I don't do anything that really tries to draw attention to myself. I kind of just keep a low profile. How can we help, or what can all of us do to learn more and educate ourselves and others? I would say reach out to trans people. If you know somebody personally who's trans, ask them about their experiences because every trans person is different. Every trans person experiences things in a different way. For instance, sometimes a lot of people use the term, oh, I was born in the wrong body. For me personally, I don't describe my experiences that way. The best way I can describe it is that my body is my body, but there's certain aspects of it that I don't like. And so I needed to change those aspects so that I could feel personally comfortable with my body. Oh, and that actually made me think of another misconception people have about being trans. They compare it to body dysmorphia, which they're actually two different things. The difference between body dysmorphia and gender dysphoria is body dysmorphia has to do with your perception and how you see yourself. So, for instance, let's say I'm a person, I see myself as overweight, and I am literally skin and bones, my ribs are showing, I'm very underweight, and it's like I'm very, very unhealthy. But somebody with body dysmorphia, when they look in the mirror, they're going to see themselves as being overweight. There's actually a flaw in their perception of their self. And that's what causes like distress, the flaw in their perception of themselves. And so they can go through therapy and things, and there's different ways to help somebody cope with body dysmorphia by changing the way that they see themselves. Gender dysphoria is different. Gender dysphoria is not someone who sees, like when I look in the mirror, I didn't literally see myself as a girl. I see myself as male before I started transitioning. I see myself as male, but it's the feelings that realization causes. It's a feeling of disgust and a feeling of pain, angst, discomfort. It's a very strong revulsion at being male. So the difference in the two is that one is a flaw in the perception and the other is not a flaw, it's the feelings that reality basically gives you. So with gender dysphoria, it can't be treated the same way you treat body dysmorphia. They've tried it. It doesn't work. Trying to get people to change the way they perceive themselves when it comes to their gender and, who they are internally is a lot more difficult and a lot more psychologically damaging than changing their body. So in the case of gender dysphoria, it's much more healthy for the person to just transition, if that is within their circumstances, than it is to actually change to their mind. Whereas with body dysmorphia, a person with body dysmorphia, let's say they could lose all the weight in the world, but they'll never see themselves as thin enough, and it's not healthy for them to try to maintain that. So after that tangent, moving back to the other question, what things in society need to be made more normal, accessible for trans people? I think the bathroom situation is definitely like a hotbed topic. I think a lot of people are concerned with people being able to use the bathrooms and like self-IDing and being able to go into bathrooms whenever they, want to, and like a cis man going into a women's bathroom. And I think that scares a lot of people, and I understand why it does. But when you think about it, my main things for that are that one, statistics just don't show it as an actual problem. It's mathematically just not happening. Two, if people force trans people to go to the bathroom of their birth sex, you'll have most people don't even know, you'll have trans men, so someone who was assigned female at birth but transitioned to male will be forced to go into the women's restroom. And when that happens, you're going to have somebody who looks just like a regular cis male going into the women's restroom and having to legally do that. To me, that opens up cis men being predatory more than a trans woman would. Because if you think about it, what takes more effort, a man dressing up as a woman and going to the women's restroom, or just walking in there and saying, "Oh, I'm a trans man"? So it just, to me, I don't think, the logic is very flawed. So yeah, I think bathrooms need to be more accessible. Healthcare needs to be more accessible. It can be very expensive to transition. And some people can't necessarily get the hormones that they need right away. I think that like psychotherapy and stuff should be more accessible for trans people. For instance, for me personally, I was in therapy and I still am in therapy for over a year, and I was no closer to getting on hormones. I ended up having to do informed consent to be able to get on my hormones. And it's just kind of crazy that like I've been suffering with this for so long and I was like no closer to where I had started. And it's just so hard to get to good resources to be able to just do things like through the doctors and stuff. So that's something that would be nice for people to change and to get that to be more accepted and more normalized and things. Next question is, do you feel like there's enough support or resources out there for people in the transgender community? I feel like there are online spaces, I think, have a good amount of materials, but I think there's always room for improvement. I think there can always be more added so that people can find things and make things more accessible. I think you can never have too much of something when it comes to like awareness. It says, what would you say to someone who has these feelings but is too scared to come out and say anything? I would say hold on to who you are. You know who you are. It's scary. It's very, very scary. But I would say that even if like your family isn't supportive or your friends aren't supportive, hold on to who you are. Don't let that, be taken away from you. Do things in a way that is best for you. If you feel like you're not safe coming out, you don't have to come out to anyone. And it's unfortunately, at least in the United States, I know in the states that I live in, they changed it so that the requirement to even like start like HRT is that it used to be that you had to live as your assigned gender for 2 years, I think. And so for someone like me, like that would terrify me to like have to like go out and present myself as a woman and then like physically still not be like having any of the like physical characteristics that people would read or mark me as being female. So now it's a lot better with that, where you can actually start hormones before you start presenting, which is really helpful. So I think you find what does best for you, stay strong. There are people out there who love you. And you just keep going through it. It's you're gonna have those moments where things seem so dark, but if you don't give up and you keep pushing through, you can get to a better place. What advice would you give to other people going through the same thing? People that are in my position that are starting maybe their transition, I would say just stay connected to people that care about you. Stay positive. Do things that you can to expedite your transition. Like right now, I'm like getting paperwork and stuff done for my name change. So I would say just like, try to get your ducks in a row because things take a long time sometimes. So just get things together and ready so that when you're ready to go, you don't have to wait as long. What do you think it would take for narrow-minded people who disapprove of trans people to become more accepting? I would say exposure to more trans people. I think a lot of the times, and I understand why it is, I think we're judgmental of people who we don't understand or we don't have experience with. And honestly, before I knew what being trans was, I thought being trans was weird. I was like, oh, it's kind of weird. Like, I don't get it. Even though I, in myself, I had these same feelings. I just did not understand it enough to really accept it. So I think it's just education, learning, and listening to people's stories helps a lot. When or if people behave negatively towards you, is it normally just weird looks, or do they say something, or what do they say when they do? Well, I'm not out publicly, so I don't really get any like weird things or anything, not too much. I've actually been correctly, like I've been like what we call male failing for like MTF, or male to female transgender people. And what that basically means is when you're presenting completely as male from like your clothing and stuff, and someone mistakes you for being a woman. I don't really know why. I think it's because my hair is a little bit longer now, and my voice has kind of always been more like on the softer side or higher side. I know it probably doesn't sound like that over the recording, but it does in real life. And people always like think I'm a woman on the phone, so I was good with that. But sometimes when like I'm talking, if they realize I'm not a woman, sometimes it will be kind of like a weird look. Even though I'm still like dressing as a guy, it's like my voice when they first hear me, they think I'm a woman, and then like sometimes like certain things I'll say, it'll drop a little bit lower, and they look at me like, okay, wait, what is this? So yeah, so it'll be just like, well, maybe like an odd look, but I've gotten to the point where I'm like, okay, I don't care. I'm never gonna see you again. Take your coffee and go. um, and then it says, and finally, please just include anything you think would help other people to understand or help other people. I would say just to take your time with everything. It's a lot to analyze and go through. I think when you want to start your transition, I think it is something that you should be, especially if you're thinking about doing hormones or something. I think it's something that you want to think about a lot, do a lot of research on, weigh the pros and cons. My biggest advice to people who are questioning if they're trans is to look at examples of people who transition and also examples of people who detransition. It's scary. It's like extremely scary when you first do it with the detransitioners, because it makes you question like, what if I'm not really trans? They were thought they were so sure. But personally, I found for me that examining their stories and listening to the stories and seeing what they not necessarily did wrong. I feel like some people didn't do enough introspection before they started, but not to blame them or anything, because it is a lot to think about. But I think when you do that, it really just helps you to have a better understanding, and you see where you feel like you fit in more. If you're seeing more stories of people who transition and you feel like you relate more to that than you do to the detransitioners, it can be a good sign for you. I think take it slow, think things through, do what's safe for you at the time. Be careful who you talk to and who you trust, especially if you're in an area where it's not necessarily safe for you to be out. Then be very careful who you share things with. But overall, just stay true to yourself. Remember who you are. Don't let people gaslight you, even if other people don't see you for who you are yet. It's okay. It takes time, but that's the whole point of transitioning, is to help people to be able to see you for who you are. So I hope this has been helpful to someone. I hope that this has helped to give some a different perspective, maybe on trans people. And I really hope that you've enjoyed listening to my story. Thank you. Bye.